Hello folks, it is Friday. That means we're diving into Hobby Nightmares, we're having a good time, and then we're diving into the weekend. I hope you're all having a wonderful, wonderful time of it. Everything's going well on this side of the world, so hopefully everything's going well where you are as well. Let's dive in, shall we, with Bobby. How's it going, Bobby? And he says, "Hello North, I'm a big fan of your channel. I subscribed back in September 2024 when I got back into the hobby after a long departure back in 2008 when I finished college. I watched your video on shame for the hobby for a while. I was painting the other night, and this got me thinking about my own shame moment. My brother and I first got back into the hobby in the year 2000 when we saw our first issue of White Dwarf. My brother and I were always into painting models and wargaming because of our dad. He was a big history buff, and we also reenacted the War of 1812 with him. Redcoats, obviously, in the 49th Regiment of Foot. Fair enough. We played war games with him that were usually World War I or World War II based. Our dad's friends always went all out on their terrain. I remember spending time one day gaming on a very detailed Juno beach, and another day gaming with an extremely impressive collection of 55 days at Peking. Dude, do you know how many old greybeards will be, like, so jealous of the, you know, of your childhood? This is the opposite of a nightmare. My brother and I first found a copy of White Dwarf around the same time the first trailer for Lord of the Rings came out. We were obsessed. We started Warhammer Fantasy Armies. I chose the dwarves and my brother chose Skaven. We both had 2,000 point armies, to which I then started a small orc army. We played with some buddies who had armies of lizardmen and chaos. We even got our one cousin into it, who started a small Bretonnian army. I think I remember Games Workshop coming out with a skirmish rulebook or sheet. I distinctly remember a large card with skirmish written on it that my brother had. Anyways, my dad even took us to hobby conventions all over Canada and the USA. My brother and I would enter the kids' competitions at differing conventions, and we won for various categories such as Best Painted and Diorama, etc. We even won a few gold medals, along with silver and bronze. Fast forward to 2008, and I'm just almost finishing up college, where I now live with my dad. My brother and I were still into the hobby, but didn't really have time for it now that we lived apart. And I was hanging out with my friends back from high school at a party, and we were a little drunk, and the girls wanted to play Truth or Dare, and it quickly devolved into him make out with her, etc. Alright, this went from 0 to 100 very quickly. This went from, yeah, here's my models, get it, you know, it just went like, very quick. Anyways, the very popular girl from my high school we will call Ursula Creed. Hard time thinking for a funny name for her, sorry. Ursula and I make out, and apparently she told all of our friends that she was crushing big time on me after the party. She told my buddy that she wanted to hang out ASAP, so I was kind of pumped. I'm a good looking guy and physically fit. I was going to college and getting into policing, so I was always in the gym. Not someone you'd expect to be into Warhammer, but there we go. But I always turned heads when I would randomly go off about Warhammer and Star Wars, Star Trek, etc., as people were not expecting it from me. Anyways, Ursula and I plan an evening together, and she is set on coming over to my house for a chill movie night. Don't tell me you got the dwarves out. Don't you tell me that you got the dwarves out. No, man, you can't do this to me. I'm all excited and getting ready, and oh no, my shelf directly in the middle had my orc and dwarf army on it. I don't know why I panicked and hid it in my closet. This was very unlike me. No, dude, I forgive you. I did this as well. So, I actually have a funny story from university, right? There was this girl from, where was she from? Malaysia, right? And she was stunning. Like, curvy, amazing smile. Like, everybody fancied her. Everybody, you know. And she was a good girl. You know, didn't do anything like that. You know, she was always really, really good. One night, a Burns night, actually, in fact, you know, because Robert Burns, the Scottish poet and all that, everybody had to wear tartan to go down to the college bar, you know. So we're all down there having a drink, having a laugh, and a friend of mine, Lawrence, you know who you are, and if he's listening to this, he's already giggling, right? A friend of mine, Lawrence, he knows I'm into Warhammer, and Lawrence is into it too. I've mentioned Lawrence before. He was very good at getting really good deals from eBay about models and things, you know. Anyway, I always put my army in my wardrobe because it has shelves and it keeps them dust-free, right? So my Grey Knight army is in there. Lawrence thought it'd be funny because we played a game of Floorhammer before Burns Night, right? Before we started, as we were pre-drinking. He took his army back in his room next door, and I got a shower. Lawrence thought it would be funny to put my Grey Knight. You know what? I'm gonna leave the punchline for later. Anyway, right? Okay. So we go down the bar and we're having a few drinks. Everything's going well, and this girl comes in, and we end up talking, and we're hitting it off, and things are going really well, and the drinks are flowing, and we have a bit of a kiss and a cuddle as you do. I'm thinking this is great, fantastic. And I don't know how it happened, but we ended up back at my room, right? And she's really drunk, I'm really drunk. I've got no intention of pushing it any further at this point, because obviously you don't want that court case or whatever, you wanna... I don't know this girl that well, so, you gotta be careful. So we go in the room, and it's gonna be like a make-out session. And we've already said it's just gonna be a make-out session, we'll fall asleep, and the next morning we'll go on a date, and we'll have some fun, right? Anyway, I walk in, and I go to the toilet, and she goes, hey, what's this? What? That's one thing you don't want to hear when you're in a room in university, is some hot girl in your room going, what's this? Right? So I walk out. What Lawrence has done, he's actually gone back to my room to pick something up that he'd forgotten. I think it was his wallet. And because he knew me and this girl were probably going to head back to my room, he took my Dread Knight, the worst looking model, and he put it on my bed pillow. On the pillow, right there. And he's just there, standing there like, ugh! Like the derpy pose. Ugh! Go and look up a Dread Knight right now. That was him. Angry face and everything. Ugh! Right? She wasn't impressed, to put it lightly. So I put the model back in the thing. I said, don't worry about that. And I'm ashamed of what I said next. I'm ashamed of what I said next. Because she knew I was lying, right? I said, I'm looking after them for a friend. Right? Yeah. Anyway, we still had a kiss and a cuddle, but you know what I did the next day? Another friend of mine, Matt, was having a tournament, and he was the War Games, the War Games group leader, basically. You know what I mean, of the university, and he needed me to go down and help him run the Apocalypse game. So I actually blew off the date with him the next day. I know. Sorry. We went out the next day. It was fine, and we dated for a little while, and everything was fine. And again, the next time we were in my room, there were no models, so, it all went well. But, I very nearly blew it. So I don't hate you for this. Right? This is fine. I've done exactly what you just did. So don't worry about it too much. Lawrence was a prick for doing that, by the way. Anyway. As it wasn't like I had a hard time getting dates, but this was, Ursula Creed. She was really hot. Fair enough. So I hastily put all my models in my closet 5 minutes before Ursula came over after getting off work. We go to my room and we chill for a bit, just talking, and she admires my DVD collection on my shelf, to which she then notices, why is the middle shelf completely empty? I'm like, well, duh, I was cleaning it. To which she was confused as to why the middle of the shelf was empty and not the DVDs or my books. She then notices something on my closet. My gold medals. She excitedly goes over and says, "Oh, what are these for?" And I'm like, shit. Because the Hobby Convention logos are all on it, so I just to say, they're for modelling. She goes, "You were a model?" And I'm like, no, miniatures and stuff. To which I owned up. It's like 50 Shades of Grey. You open up your wardrobe and all your dwarves are there. To which I owned up and showed her my Warhammer army. What a guy. What a man. Hey, who's not standing in the fucking aisles, eh? What a guy. You show her them models, son. You show her who's boss. Show her them models, son. And here's some dwarves for you, love. Hey, here's an orc. Yeah? You like that? You like that? Okay, now. She was a little confused. and quickly moved on from this subject. We hung out, watched the movie, made out a bit, but there was no second date. She told her friends it just didn't feel right. Okay, that's fair enough. And I knew this because I was definitely not the type of guy she usually dated. I guess she thought I was. Yeah, what it is, man, is that you obviously look like you're an outgoing guy who's going to be, like, wanting to go party with her and stuff, you know? She's living that kind of a life. And listen, you got to make out with a hot chick. You know, take your wins, you know? It's fair enough. Not everyone's compatible, you know? But I always remembered that night because it was the first time and the last time I was ever ashamed about my hobbies. And I think she could see that. Never touched the Games Workshop model since. Moved around a lot with work. Happily married with amazing kids now. And last September, I was in the mall alone and walked into a Games Workshop and browsed around. The Games Workshop manager chatted me up, talked about how I used to play, blah 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 blah. Anyways, I left the store with about $110 in paint, brushes, mini holders, and started an Imperial Guard army. Also, your other video about what your 40k army says about you, I listened to it, and you said, guys who played Guard are generally into history in a big way. And I burst out laughing as I was painting my converted Cadians into Praetorian Guard. Red Coast, obviously, huzzah. Been really into Kill Team lately, and I also buy my daughter her own minis. Oh, awesome, man. Usually Princess and Unicorn minis from my brother's 3D printer or D&D. But I had to sacrifice a pair of Kassakin, which was painted gold and purple when she ran out of minis to paint. But I will include them in my Kill Team as a badge of honour. Stay sweet, North. Don't ever change. Love, Bobby. Alright, here's some pics of my models. Okay. Here's the thing, man. And I think Bobby has a really good way of showing us through a good example there. Like, most women, right? Really nice looking guard model there, man. Well done. Most women, and the ones that I've come across anyway, don't really care about what hobbies you're into. Alright? Don't listen to the ick thing. Oh no, that's a bit of an ick. I don't like that. Right? I don't like guys being into models, or it's a bit of an ick. No. I don't like guys who are into video games. It's a bit of an ick. Dude, if you're good looking, or you're not ashamed and you're proud of it, you instantly diffuse all of it, right? Do you know when you've got sunburn, you know what people say to you to do? Is stand in a hot shower, take the sting out of it, and then it feels fine for the rest of the night, right? It sucks when you do it, but once you've done it, it's alright. This is the same thing. If you've got a hobby that maybe a girl might be a bit like, about, and whenever she asks about it, talk about it, and let her know why it's good for you. Like, say, I love it. You know, in terms of Warhammer, this is what I always say, right? Okay, one sec. Let me take a quick sip of tea. Whenever a girl says, you know, what are you into? I say different things, you know, and then eventually, if it comes up, and it will come up, like, you know, how do you mean models? I like Warhammer. And she'll go, oh, and I go, no, I really like it, because it helps with my hand-eye coordination. It lets me express my artistic side. I get to learn how different paints work and how different colour grading works and things like that. You know, I really love reading. I love the lore. I love reading books. You know, so I'm always reading. That's a really cool way of going about things. And I always get together with the lads for a game, right? And we have some beer and pretzels, and we chill out and we play some Warhammer. And yeah, it's really cool. You know. I've never known a woman to go, yeah, it's not for me. It's kind of lame, though. I've never known a woman to do that. You know what they always do? They always go, oh, cool. Oh, cool. You know. Originally, they'll go, you know, that's a bit weird. If you say, listen, no, I really love it. I really love it. It helps me paint, helps me express my artistic side. It helps with my hand-eye coordination, my close motor control. You know, it's something really cool that my friends and I do over a beer. You know, we can bond over it. We have a really good time. I love reading the books. It's awesome, man. You say it like that, and you're not ashamed, neither is she. Right? You have to remember, a lot of people, not just women, but a lot of people, that they will take their cues from you socially, from the people around them socially. So if you act full on like it's nothing to be ashamed of, you don't get defensive, right? But you act nonchalant, like, yeah, here's why I do it, and here's why it's awesome, and then you move on. Every single person at the table will just drop it. And we'll go, oh, okay, cool. Hey, the guy likes Warhammer, okay, right? And if people keep bringing it up and taking the piss out of you for it after that, then they're not the kind of people you want to be around anyway, and that's not the kind of person you want to date anyway, right? That's all you do. That's all you do. It's like going into a job interview and you realise, listen, I'm interviewing you, motherfucker. Like, I know you're interviewing me for this job, but if I don't like you, I'm not taking this job. So I'm interviewing you as well, right? Same attitude. Exactly the same attitude. Stand up for yourself, stand up for your hobbies. Anyway, I'll leave that up for a minute. Alrighty, this next one is from Macro. How's it going, dude? He says, how do North? It's a pleasure to be back in touch with you. Last we talked was to test your skirmish game, which I enjoyed a lot. Well, thank you very much. You can call me Macro for the purposes of reading this. This turned out a lot longer than I really expected, and that's after I cut some unnecessary bits out. Grab yourself some delicious Yorkshire tea, and let's get on with it. Alright, it's not that long, man. That's what she said. Yeah, let's get into it. I've been a listener since your early videos on what it's like working for Games Workshop way back in the day. I was just getting into the hobby then, late 2020, and your videos were prime fuel for filling out my blank perspective on what the hobby was like. Dude, all the way back then. I remember that the channel didn't really take off until late 2021. Late 2021 was when I started doing like weekly videos. Not even that. Every day or so I'd do a new video in 2021. And then eventually we settled into, as soon as my Hobby Nightmares finished, because I only had like 5 or 6 like real Hobby Nightmares from working in the hobby, you know, I didn't have very many. After we got to the end of those, other people would start sending me theirs, and then that's how we got into it. It's actually grown really organically because like I started doing my own Hobby Nightmares, and then ex-colleagues would send me their Hobby Nightmares, you know, some of my friends would send me theirs, and then eventually randos, internet randos would start sending them in, and that's what I always wanted, you know. I wanted to start, you know, I'll do it first, and then maybe we'll get some more in, and some more in, and eventually, now we do Hobby Nightmares that are completely community-based, which I love. It's great. Really does, it gives people in the hobby a voice. You all have a voice. You've got an audience here of, you know, 3 to 10,000 people per video who are going to listen to you, talk to you, and that's really rare. It doesn't sound like a lot of people, but do you know anybody else who has a straight line to 3 to 10,000 people like that? Like you do? Because you do. If you send me a Hobby Nightmare, it will be read out, right? Unless it's either obviously bullshit or not very well written, right? If you send me something that's coherent and it happened to you, it will be read out. You will get your audience. You will have people listening to you and identifying with your story. That's insanely powerful, man. It's awesome. Anyway. Alright. I wanted to write in a story today to tell a story about how discovering this hobby saved my sanity. In March of 2020, the world flipped upside down and everything closed, as you know. Towards the end of the year, I was still working part-time due to my job being mandatory attendance and quite critical to the daily functioning of a city government. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no holidays off. We were termed essential employees and had to work despite the lockdowns and fear-mongering news highlights. The job is quite good in spite of that, and we are compensated somewhat for its inconveniences. The grinding monotony of my days spent indoors with naught but old video games interspersed with frankly disturbing travel to and from work in a dead city was taking a severe toll on me. Even my job, normally in an office between 40 and 50 employees on multiple shifts, became far more grueling when reduced to skeleton crews to minimise exposure. The work completed by 15-ish people per shift now had to be done by just 3 to 5. I was off 4 to 5 days per week now, but the abundance of free time was more damaging than invigorating. Yeah, I guess so, yeah. Not gonna lie though, sounds good to me. In short, I was shaving away parts of my soul trying to stay sane. My wife is an absolute gem and did everything she could to support me during all of this. But both of us were frazzled and feeling the pain. Ultimately, nothing was fun anymore. I had no desire to play any games. There was no social outlet as my friends and family weren't very close by or had family members who absolutely couldn't risk exposure. I was sitting on a small mountain of magic cards that I couldn't really use, but did throw myself into deck building for a few months. Playing games against myself quickly lost any appeal, and I continued to stagnate. One sec. Sorry about that. And I continued to stagnate. There was a vicious sense of malaise, a pervasive wrongness to reality that couldn't be corrected, avoided, or abated by any means available to me at the time. I could feel the metaphorical walls closing in, and then, as certain someone passed away and America lost all sense of dignity during the Summer of Love 2020, quote unquote. I work in law enforcement, but not as an officer. During the riots, multiple attempts were made on mine and my co-workers' lives. We were shuffled between various buildings in the city to try to keep us away from the bulk of the riots, but the mad mob inevitably targeted all buildings owned by the city or any law enforcement agency. At one point, we were caught by a mob in an outbuilding when they shoved a dumpster against the only exit and tried to light it on fire. Thankfully, police intervened swiftly and we were evacuated again. Another time they broke into the lobby of the building we were in while waiting for an opportunity to be escorted by officers to our cars to leave after a shift. We fled upstairs while officers tried to push them back outside. A co-worker of mine, also into Warhammer, top bloke, was lasered in the eyes during another riot, leading to temporary loss of vision. Myself and others were followed home by suspicious vehicles on many occasions. I hit my breaking point, yeah, I'm not surprised. In August of that year, my wife and I made the decision to take some time off and welcome a foster child into our home. She was adorable and a pure joy to care for, and we reaffirmed that we'd someday adopt a child since we couldn't have one of our own. However, that wonderful little lady soon had to leave, and I had to go back to work. I was so thoroughly depleted of any will to remain human that I'm confident I'd have done something monumentally stupid had I been required to continue working. There was a burgeoning hatred within me, and I knew my temper would get the better of me eventually. I knew I would quickly reach a point of no return if I didn't get myself under control. I've always been very wary of my own anger, keeping it firmly suppressed due to some bad experiences in childhood from an abusive step-parent. Never show any anger, which only led to me exploding inappropriately in the past and being punished severely for it. Always happens, man. Always happens. If you don't find an outlet for your anger, lads, it's coming out one way or the other. You know when you really need to be sick, right? You really need to throw up. It's coming out one way or the other. That's your anger, man. That's your anger. If you don't find an outlet for it, yeah, you got to express yourself, dude. You got to let people know when you're not happy. Say, no, fuck this. I'm not happy. You're a moron. Fuck off. Right? You'd be surprised, how understanding people are when you just tell them to fuck off. Right? It saved a few friendships of mine over the years. When a mate has said something that's really, really stupid and shit, really rarely happens. Very rarely, once every couple of years. But when somebody says something that's really stupid, ignorant, and really annoys me, I just say it. I say, dude, that was stupid. Why did you say that? You're a fucking moron. Why did you say that? Oh, sorry, mate. Yeah, I didn't. And it's always, they always apologise. Oh, sorry, mate. Yeah, sorry, I didn't realise what I was saying there. Yeah, good. Okay, well, we'll move on then. But then it's not sitting in my chest like a canker that needs lancing. You know what I mean? Just get off your chest. Just tell them. Anyway. And then, one late evening, while trying to indulge in some YouTube, inspiration struck me. One of the Magic the Gathering YouTubers I watched occasionally made a video about another hobby of his, Warhammer 40,000. He had felt similarly to me during the pandemic and uploaded a video about his frankly very large collection. He showed off his Blood Angels. Some of you may know who I'm talking about, but I won't name him out of respect for his privacy just in case. He had several thousands of points of models at least, impressive soldiers with fantastical guns and bizarre tanks and vehicles of war. This was the first time I'd ever seen somebody showcase their army. I was familiar with Warhammer only in passing, generic awareness of a concept which exists somewhere in the world. This video showed me exactly what the game represented in a way I'd not really seen before. Immediately, I knew what I'd been missing. Throughout my school years, I was a passionate artist. My mother was always taking on creative projects at home, whilst I painted, sketched, coloured and worked with clay. After starting college, I found myself with less and less time for artistic pursuits, until they were forgotten altogether. The yawning pit of discomfort within me finally had meaning. I needed a creative outlet, and this hobby seemed rather promising. Assembling models like puzzle pieces and painting the primary draw for me at the end of the art. At the end of the art side, there was even a massive awesome game that can be played with the models once finished. If everything I didn't know I needed... No, sorry, it had everything I didn't know I needed. But would I actually do it? Wouldn't I be garbage at painting? Would the game be fun? Wouldn't all this just end up sitting on my shelf for years at a time like my magic cards? I dove into research that weekend, watching dozens of videos about the hobby, the factions, the models, painting methods, battle reports. I was insatiable. I pulled the trigger on it before I went back to work that week. I spoke with my wife, explaining to her how I was feeling lately. She already knew, and that I needed to make some kind of changes for both of our sakes. She knew that also. I told her I was going to start a new hobby, and that there was some upfront cost to it, but it would be offset by the selling off of my card collection. She gave me a hug and told me, "Do it. You need something to deal with all this." She has always supported me in this hobby since day one and minute one. I love her more than anything. She's the best. Yeah, man. And that's it. Get one like that. I guarantee she has a home and a loving husband, and she makes sure I'm taken care of and nurtured. That year was harder on both of us than I can reasonably articulate, but I'm sure she was feeling down about not being able to do anything for my mental state. With a lot of anticipation, I began the process of cataloguing. By the way, before I go anywhere else, this is what a healthy relationship sounds like, right? What did he just say there? I guarantee she has a home and a loving husband, right? You're her support network there, right? What does she do? She makes sure you're taken care of and you're nurtured. That's it. A1. A fucking 1. That is the relationship. There is a reason why every healthy relationship I've ever come across has resembled that sentence. I guarantee she has a home with a loving husband, and she makes sure I'm taken care of and nurtured. Right? And you can both work while doing that, by the way, if you want to. But that's how it has to be. Right? I'm not saying you can't find happiness in other ways. What I'm saying is it's very rare. I've come across it very rarely. Right? Most really, really healthy couples, including me, right? That resembles it. In one sentence, you know? It's brilliant. Brilliant. Another sip of tea coming. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Eventually, you know, when you settle down, dating's one other thing. Dating's another thing entirely, but when you settle down, it should look something like that. Anyway, with a lot of anticipation, I began the process of cataloguing and selling cards. By the end, I'd made close to $1,000 by putting up decks I'd built myself, valuable singles, and bulk chaff cards. I turned around and sank that money into a hobby that I don't and can't regret a moment of. I quickly found that assembling and painting models gets me into a mental state of perfect stability. Sanding sprue nubs and scraping mould lines, base coating and watching layers take shape of paints, I lose myself in the process. Nothing can intrude when I find myself deep in that still pond of focus. Dude, what a lovely, poetic... Especially, and listen, I swear to God, like, it's weird how this happens, how I do a video on these things, and then the next few Hobby Nightmares, you know, there'll be something in there. The universe works in mysterious ways, man. It really does. But the way you say it, nothing can intrude when I find myself deep in that still pond of focus. What a gorgeous sentence. That's prose there, man. You need to write. You need to do some writing. That's prose. Nothing can intrude when I find myself deep in that still pond of focus. You could all picture that, right? You're sitting there with your models in a pond that's not moving. Like a warm pond. Awesome, man. I have far less trouble with my mental balance now, years later. I still play video games, sometimes with my wife. She's a hardcore Left 4 Dead 2 fan of all things, but I find myself playing games less and less, preferring to instead work on another unit for one of my armies. My anger isn't really an issue now. I'm in control of myself and my emotions, and being able to shut out the world with my own thoughts by drowning them in detailed highlights and glazing coats has given me a tool to deal with excess emotion. Given time and mental separation, even the sharpest spike of rage dulls to manageable levels. Angron only wishes he had tiny nerdy toy soldiers to paint to silence their nails. I have some other stories of my early days in the hobby, and I'm sure I'll write them in at some point in the future. One for certain about how I quit competitive 40k. Today, I felt a need to put this one down on paper, so to speak. Thank you for all your constant work every week to produce these videos and give an audience to those of us who feel unheard or need advice. No problem, man. Men always need both leaders and supporters, and you're doing a fantastic job at both. Signed, a Space Shark Enjoyer, Macro. Cheers, man. And he's attached his Castellan Crow here. So I'm going to put that on screen. Please send in that other Hobby Nightmare, though. Because it does sound pretty cool. So, yeah, send in that other Hobby Nightmare. That sounds really good. Because you need to write, man. You definitely need to write a bit more. Because that was lovely. That was nice to read. It just flowed really well. But there is your Castellan Crow. He looks awesome. Looks brilliant. Now, I'm going to go because I have other things to do. On Monday, we'll be hearing from Cecil again. That'll be really cool. And, yeah, I'll be seeing you on Sunday where we're going to be discussing the Raven Guard. And I might be hitting you with a Doof McToofer on Sunday. We may be doing 2 Legions on the same day. Oh, I know. Awesome. Because I'm going to be away the week after. All right. Love you a long time. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And I'll speak to you soon. Have a good one. Bye now.